we may have mentioned this in the previous file that no longer exists, da da da.
Uh-huh.
But my first original academic career sent me down being a music major and into the voice degree. And what I learned all the way through the program was that I wanted to do something. I didn't need to be super materialistic, but I wanted to be able to have enough means to travel and be a little bit more comfortable in life. I needed to do something that make more money. And really, the musician career, unless you make it into that, top 1, 2%, especially in the Broadway and opera world, you're going to spend your life just barely getting to there. Especially, you're lucking out if you end up as a teacher. And I am passionate about it enough to do it, but I also wanted to be able to, you know, have some of the finer things. So I ended up taking a right turn and getting into wine, but then I circled back and got that second degree later, different story, blah, blah.
That actually is the perfect intro to this interview, I think. I was about to start with the whole like, hey everyone, name's Bricky. I'm here with BordeauxBlack, but I was like, that's a good start. That's a fantastic just pop in there. So I'm gonna pretend like I did it right now. But with that, my name is Bricky. Welcome to a fantastic interview I have with the ... That's your cue.
BordeauxBlack.
There it is.
I was gonna wait to see if you pronounce my name correctly.
Oh, I got it. I got it done. I got the
You've got it down now.
I don't have the BordeauxBlack level of it quite yet. I'm sorry.
No, there's an ongoing joke with some of the folks that I've been very, very lucky to do media with. Half Pint, Gamertron. GT got it right away, of course, because he's close to Quebecois. But HP practiced, poor guy, practiced and practiced and practiced. And the moment he made the intro, he finally got to it. It was BordeauxBlack. It's okay. I keep a very good sense of humor about it. It's one of those Frenchy words.
Well, it's like faux, right? Because when you see faux the first time, you just you're like fox or something if you're American. But the moment you get faux, anytime you see those combinations of letters, you're like, oh, it's faux.
It's actually not.
It's not faux?
No, it's pho.
Oh crap! You would think that my love for Vietnamese food would have taught me that.
That is entirely okay. I don't think anyone expects you to fluently speak Vietnamese.
No, but I would make sure that I don't call it faux because that boggles my mind. That triggers the hell out of me.
Tis not faux. Tis pronounced pho.
It's particularly worse when they create some kind of pun. When they do like faux something with it. It's like, it doesn't work that way. It's pho.
Yeah, well, because he the faux chicken pun doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, thank you again for joining with me today. I really appreciate it. To the listeners out here, you may recognize BordeauxBlack's voice from some snippets that I had in my Subverse review, link in the main channel if you have not gotten a chance to see it. And it was originally a fully fledged interview. Lots of good back and forth. Everything was great. And then as good as technology is, it gives and it takes. And the whole file got corrupted. So I had a wonderful time. Thank you again so much for sending me those short notice extra bits, which was hilarious as I had to meticulously take out a couple of the bathtub splash sounds.
Yeah, fun fact, when he asked me to supply those particular little sound bites, which I was happy to do, I was on my birthday vacation, and I happened to be in a wonderful soaking tub overlooking gorgeous snowy mountains, but I 1000% took those sound bites from the bath.
Yes, and every so often, but very rarely, there was like good little splash, and I was like, oh, gotta snip. Which is actually good though, because when you talk, especially in sound bites, you tend to pause, collect thoughts, think about it, and then continue with your speaking. So there's a lot less ahs and ums, which is actually perfect because most of those happened in between. So it was a perfect timing. But anyway, you are of course the voice of Demi in the newly released Subverse, which has been 2 weeks, give or take, since this.
Oh, Captain, my Captain.
Does she? I don't think she does that reference currently. I hope she does later.
No.
That'd be fantastic if she does.
I'm sure I threw that ad lib in there at some point. I would be shocked if I didn't.
No, I mean it's not only fitting, but it's also considering the humor of the game. It works out very well.
Mm.
Out of curiosity, I know that I hate and love saying it. It's probably one of my more appreciated and popular videos of the past couple of months, which I
Woo!
find hilarious. I'm
Why do
happy.
you hate it?
It's a little funny because I do this on all these other major games, but then boom, you throw it into the newest released adult game, and then it gets all that kind of jazz going. You don't really expect it. You expect YouTube to look at it and say, "Ooh, can't have that." Push it down a little bit, but here we are. Have you gotten? Oh, how's the reception been? Not only since launch, but hopefully some of my more respectful fans have
Ah.
either reached out to you or been like, "Hey, great work," anything like that?
Oh, yeah. Oh god, just outpouring. I have not even begun to keep up with all of the fan art pieces and the animation loops that are other animators doing their take on Demi and such. I've gotten some folks who have specifically said I come from Hisasuke, or I come from Bricky, or I come from Jesse Cox, or for any of these other, places where I haven't done anything with Jesse yet, but I've had a YouTube comment thread going on with him, getting him connected with the Studio Faux folks, or excuse me, Studio Faux folks. I pronounced it faux for the longest time. I think it's foul. I work for them and I still don't know.
Is it Studio Pho, perhaps?
Ha ha!
Ah.
I see what you did there. Um, I am really, really, really honestly grateful. I was prepared for the worst. It being a voice actor, being a voice actor who works in the not safe for work community, being a voice actor who works in the not safe for work gaming community, who is a woman, I was absolutely prepared for the disgusting, awful schlag, and I'm certain that I will eventually get there as my number follower count gets bigger. I know it'll happen, but I haven't really gotten anything awful yet. That is not an invitation. Keep
That's
your
very
frickin' bits on.
that's very good though. If anything, I would
I'm
hope that would be a sign of the
super shocked and
times.
pleased. Yeah, no, I'm really hoping that that's what it is. Everyone who has reached out to me has had overwhelmingly positive things to say. Generally speaking, they're fairly generic. I really love your voice. Um, I came 50 times, which, thanks. I appreciate it. Um, different voice actors have different opinions about whether or not they want to hear that sort of thing.
Of course,
Me
of course.
personally, I am flattered by it. But for the most part, it's fairly generic. It's you did a really great job. Demi is my favorite waifu. I loved this part or that part. But every once in a while, I will get praise that is indistinguishable from a regular mainstream project. And I really fucking love that for this game. It's not as though I shy away in any way, shape, or form from the adult material. And it definitely, I cannot say that Subverse does not have smut, because it very much does. But the response to it has, at least from the receiving end, has very much felt like just a video game. video game with smut in it, but a video game. So I have
Okay.
been very, very, very fortunate, at least from the VA perspective, to just be getting good, wholesome fandom response.
Excellent. I'm curious because as time has gone on, myself growing up, and as I started dating a little bit more, I learned a very important lesson, which is if you're going to compliment your lady, you don't just say the usual, "You look good, you look pretty," which always works, but it's
Which is
always
nice.
pick
But
something.
yeah.
Pick the eyebrows, how they did their hair today, the outfit. Like, always be
There you
specific.
go.
Do you think that perhaps that's one of the things where it's not just the general compliments are nice, but more they're saying like, "Hey, we're really pleased," in the same vein that someone would praise a major AAA release?
Oh, that's a layered question. And to start off, Bordeaux and Bricky give dating advice.
Hey, well, please, I'm sure they'd appreciate something. No offense,
I
guys.
have joked more than once that I should do that, and every time I do, people are like, "Yes, you need to do that," which is extremely helpful because I have also dated women myself. So
Oh,
I know what
perfect.
they're
You've
not
doubled
only
your
am I
audience
one, but I also
size.
know how to do that. Okay, the question was, do I think it is because folks have gotten better at being articulate in how to praise women. No. Unfortunately, no. I wish that were the case. But I mean that in a very flattering way. What I mean to say is that folks are clearly taking it seriously as a medium. It's never been devoid of the adult parts of it. Trust me, at least 50% of the comments are something lewd something. Not super inappropriate, but like, this was hot and my penis liked it. So,
Gotcha. That kind of
you
vein.
know, not the kind of thing that I would want to hear as a person on a date, but as a voice actor who is providing voice for this very sexy, sexually autonomous smut content video game, it's completely appropriate for that content. And the fact that nobody has gotten yet, thank fuck. It's not as though I haven't had just a volume and massive response. It's insane. I haven't been able to keep up with it. But I am very, very, very impressed and pleased that people are taking it seriously for what it is.
Right. I think I mentioned, we talked about it in fact, you had a pretty great quote in the video. We were discussing the difference between porn with Mass Effect with porn. And in particular, in this situation, we obviously leaned far more into the, I mean, it's obviously very silly, it has its smut and all, but it's telling a story, and a story that is surprisingly, every person I spoke to, everyone is like, dude, are we actually invested in this story? I was like, yeah, what the fuck?
Oh, that's so great. I love hearing that.
It was so strange. So many characters and all. It was impressive to be able to be like, I'm in it for the plot and not say it ironically.
Yeah, no. That makes me really, 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 really happy to hear, because that very much echoes what me and Singing Sommelier, I think, and even DC at one point have been saying. Well, DC has been very good about what he says, but we, the mouthpieces, have been saying that all along. Is as much as we don't shy away from the adult sections whatsoever, what we're most engaged with, what we're most in love with, is the story. And here's some Bricky exclusive.
Ooh. Ooh.
I remember when I first read through the script and praised it for all the things you've heard me talk about before, that this was a full and complete story, that these were very, proud and confident sexual women who are also complete, full characters with their own story. And various characters have more or less story, but there is a point in the script where I actually teared up, and I do not mean in laughter.
Interesting.
I cannot say what or anything, but I can say there was one moment of, oh God, oh no, oh fuck. And had that legitimate emotional response to it. So we, in the next chunks of Subverse, are going to even more go for that. Like, we barely touched the surface of the story yet. It gets so much better.
That's very exciting to hear, because that is something that I remember. I think I praised a decent amount when I made my review, and I was quite happy with how that turned out. Actually, speaking more into Studio Pho,
that's just who they are now. They're Studio Pho.
They better have changed the branding very soon. I want to see that on their Twitter profile, Studio Pho, and they have a big picture of noodles. But
bursting seas or fire waves, whenever you get your hands on that, make the graphic for me.
But we mentioned in the first interview, and we'll reiterate that because obviously that is lost to the ether. You originally were with Studio Pho, playing the Major in their Ghost in the Shell thing. So after, I mean, you can tell us a little bit about that. But after that, did they approach you again, or did you audition for the part of Demi afterwards?
So that was my breakout role with them. They had me do a little bit part, just kind of as a test the water and make sure the payment plan worked out all right. My technical first part with them is a small little interview role at the end of Code Valentine. But at the same time as that, they had me working on the role that I originally auditioned for. There was I don't want to call it an open, but it was a semi-open casting call. And I gave my audition for Mary Elizabeth McGlynn's The Major, so that would be Standalone Complex Motoko Kusanagi. And DC contacted me directly, said, well, this was an easy choice. I'm like, fuck, are you serious? Awesome. I clearly need to pursue this seriously. And that is the very, 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 very short version of how I started with voice acting. It is the summation of a lifetime of career moves in stage, whether it be in my opera degree or some Broadway stuff that I've done, or more importantly, just a lot of burlesque work, which is the best melting pot for all of my various performance skills. But I'd sort of done voice acting on the side a little bit here and there, and the friend that I was living with at the time said, hey, there's this casting call for a bunch of characters, and one of them that he knew I could do was, I'm not bad, I'm just drawn that way. And that's when I put my focus in, and I saw, oh, also the major. I guess I'll do that too. Why not? And that's what they ended up picking me up for.
Oh, just the major, just a simple role,
Yeah,
nothing
whatever.
crazy.
It's not like a nerd bucket list item or anything.
Can I make a quick confession? Never seen Ghost in the Shell.
No, bad nerd. Bad nerd. Go watch it. At least the original movie. It's an art piece.
Well, I'm not going to watch the Scarlett Johansson one.
Oh no. Honestly, as much as I love ScarJo, fuck that one.
I think it's cyberpunk. I probably should. I know it's on the list. Anyway, continue.
No, it's a good one. Even as I am not the hugest anime person, there are certain things that are just fucking timeless, and the first Ghost in the Shell movie is absolutely one of them. But even as a fan of Standalone Complex and the whole franchise, it was massively flattering and kind of gave me a clue very early on as to what my wheelhouse would be. I think more on my Twitter, people kind of like to focus on the dommy mommy, arch succubus mistressy bits, but I eventually earned the name Budget Jennifer Hale, which is of course a huge compliment. So I go back and forth. My wheelhouse tends to be somewhere between, the sultry femme fatale and the badass space marine. So that kind of is where I tend to stick. But I have launched off away from the story. So they brought me on there, and I stuck with them thereafter. Very shortly after came, like 2 years later, came Subverse, which was their big focus. After their last couple of there was a couple more releases after that, but their big focus was beginning to move in the Subverse direction. And there were, for the most part, things were auditioned out, which is great. But there were a couple of VAs who were just, hey, we had you in mind for this. And I was very fortunate to be one of them. So while it's what we like to call a soft audition, where directors will kind of pick a small handful of people that they already have in mind and have them read a line or two and go, yes, great. So technically, we are auditioning, but we're auditioning with the idea of the director already knows who they want.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's the way of the soft audition, basically.
Yeah, most of the other roles were straight up auditioned the classic way, and of course, singing Samine made some excellent choices. But there were a few. She's actually said it in the AMA, so I can just say, myself and Alexia were both written with our voices in mind. That said, Demi's popularity took off whole hell of a lot. And because of our wonderful fans, I got a whole heck of a bigger part than it was originally going to be.
Oh, was she not originally basically the poster girl for it?
I mean, I don't. That one's tricky to say in terms of the art because I don't know for sure, but I do know that as one of the non-combat characters, she definitely had a much smaller role. She was kind of ship business, and that they, after learning that she had, that she had a whole lot more popularity. Thankfully, I'd been signed on at that point, so they cannot say it was all them. No, it's definitely a good majority of the character design and the art and the stuff, but certainly my attachment to as well. Art is always collaborative, but when all of that happened, they paid attention very smartly, listened to the feedback, and saw, oh shit, this is kind of our poster Demi best waifu blah blah, and they wrote a much larger role because of that. And I'm
Interesting.
so glad that that happened because we get so much more into her character. She's not just, oh, tra la la, blue skinned or blue and gray skinned ship attachment. She has her own character arc that we get to see a whole hell of a lot more into.
Yes, I actually was noticing that as I was finishing up some of the side missions for it, just getting the experience and some of the ship combat stuff. And I noticed when I was just about done with it, I popped back on the ship and there was a little exclamation point, and there was a whole new dialogue option that said devotion. And I don't want to get too into it for those who didn't play the game, but it opened up a whole little thread, pulling on a little thread of Demi character. And I was like, oh, there's more here. There's quite a bit more here that I'm assuming will come later. But I noticed that I was like, oh, that's exciting because, you know, it harkens back to the Mass Effect 2 loyalty missions, which are the highlight of that game. And
completely agree.
it is a huge, and obviously the Edie inspiration is very prevalent, but no one can complain about more Edie of all people. Oh, go ahead.
It's a balance, but they're certainly not the same character at all.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
But however, I also am a big Mass Effect fan, so that doesn't really hurt me to hear.
Oh god, the remaster's coming out soon. I am fully aware to put my life away. Though I actually wanted to ask something. Now that I've had the opportunity to speak with pretty much almost the whole cast so far, asked them all similar questions.
The ones that we know of, anyway.
Yes, of course, the ones that we know of. And they've all been extremely professional and very nice, answering my questions very accurately and well. It's quite interesting to see the back and forth. I must say, how did you say her name was? Sommelier?
Singing Sommelier.
I did not realize that she was, I believe, is the talent manager. Is that the correct term for it?
She does sound and casting direction.
Casting direction.
So she she was the sort of liaison between Faux or DC and Christoph and the rest of the casting. But more importantly, she did a whole lot of wrangling of producing a video game sound is a massive fucking sound project. And on top of doing all of the animation work that DC and Christoph were doing and all of the back end that they needed to be doing, they brought her on when they brought her on a good while into, maybe about 25% into me having already shot the role, to manage the other sound files the way that went in on the particular website that we use, which I will not reveal what it was, but coordinating, choosing the takes, getting all of those in the right places, getting the best ones into the ears of DC, all of that stuff. So she handled the technical role, I believe, is sound design and casting direction. But what that more realistically looks like is taking all of our long ass wave files, picking the ones that were the best, sending them for approval, and then organizing it into where it goes.
Yes,
that's a massive job.
I was talking with quite a few people, and not only did she receive nearly universal praise. I was rather impressed, but I was told that she was, for lack of a better word, hard ass is the wrong word, but very like, nope, gotta do it again. You need a little bit more here, you need a little bit more there. Did you have any of that similar experience? She seemed like she really nailed down, like, this is the perfect way to do it. And considering how good the voice acting was for the game, I can imagine that a decent amount of that must have been her.
You don't want to give too much credit to the casting direction. I mean, yes, she is. I actually got most of my feedback for line changes from DC.
Oh, okay.
So, but that's not to undersell the fact that she definitely did that with some of the other newer VAs. And you definitely don't want to underrate how much acting ability generally comes down to the actual actors themselves. I would, as much as I do want to praise Chibi Mom singing Samine, who is a fantastic friend and very, very good at what she does, I wouldn't want to say that the success for voice acting is because of her. I would say that it was because of the actors under her watch.
Gotcha. Okay.
The actual acting itself is coming from us at Division, especially with me. All of my feedback was pretty much coming from DC, and it would be, maybe this is my chance to boast, it would be always very minor tweaks here and there. Well, which is not to say that those who need more consistent and a lot more retakes are bad actors. It just might have been not exactly what they wanted. One of the things, I think one of the reasons why DC chose me for this role is because I was very easily able, very right off the bat, could drop into exactly what they were looking for. So I just got it. I understood what Demi was and what her arc would be by nature of, we all saw the whole script. So I got this idea that it would be not AI, not human sexy waifu, but somewhere between, that she was this sort of gynoid evolving more and more as her ALL, adaptive language learning program, gets her more and more integrated, makes her more human over the course of the game, as well as for her plot reasons, which are mumble.
Yes, asterisk. I was
mainly. I can very much brag that I did not have a whole lot of. I wasn't one of the ones that she needed to wrangle so much.
Gotcha. I wasn't quite sure. Less so on the wrangling side, more just like I was interested in learning the how to say it, but like the weight of the obviously per talent, per casting director, because when you see a movie or anything of that nature, it's always interesting to see okay, how does the director or someone change and mold.
It's gonna have an effect.
Yes,
for sure. But how much of effect there is really comes down to how good your acting is to begin with, how good your producer is, and how well they work together. We've seen all sorts of permutations of that. I mean, I happen to know that Natalie Portman is an amazing fucking actress. You look at her in Black Swan and she is fucking stupendous. But you look at her in the prequels and all of her range of acting ability is dulled down to basically one expression. And you could say that was her bad acting, but I generally tend to think that comes down to production choices. To fucking Lucas telling her to rate it in and become this one thing. And it sucked because we didn't get to see her be what she can be.
There is no actress or actor that can save a bad script. There's or if someone.
I think a couple exceptional ones can save a bad script, but overall, it is very, very hard to save a bad script.
All right, it seems like it's all the different gears working together, and when one seems to falter, then the whole ship sometimes goes down. And it seems that it was damn well oiled in the case of Subverse because it consistently raised the bar, especially. Mr. Steve Hamm, he was surprisingly good. I did not expect that.
I've had the very privilege of Steve Hamm and I are RL, very good friends. I have the privilege of knowing what his acting capability is outside of Subverse and before it. And he was the pitch perfect number one. There's no other person who could be the captain but this dude. And his casting was also one of the other folks that's just like, nope, we want him. That is who we want.
Oh, so they're dead set. We're gonna get an extremely Australian man, got good quips, slight little Deadpool in there, a little Star-Lord in there.
Someone there every once in a while he hears English, and none of us know how the fuck anybody hears that.
Wait. Someone thinks he's English?
There, much as the ongoing gag of no one can pronounce Bordeaux, there are at least a good amount of very strange guesses as to Steve Hamm's actual country of origin. And the weirdest, I think honestly, the weirdest one we've heard is England, because how?
I don't know how you can imagine him as anything other than
that voice
Australian.
Is trippingly Australian. Trippingly.
He even has the slang. He's like you damn ripper. Like it's so Australian.
I can even plug in a little bit in that sense. Some of that, the Aussie slang was his helping the script writers pick the right pieces for that.
Interesting. So he was able to do. It's like a little ad-libbing, so to speak, or like a little adjustment to that.
It wasn't him ad-libbing so much as literally consulting on the script, saying this kind of tough Aussie guy would say this in this circumstance. So he literally did some script consulting for the character.
That's super awesome. I did not think about that. I guess especially when you're working with such only I think 12 people, wasn't it, for the whole game?
Oh yeah, it's the initial core. I mean, the group of developers and voice actors it was a pretty small, close-knit group.
I did. considering the game, considering not only the visuals but also
Oh, it's
the
insane.
it
The
is
fact that
very
12
impressive for
developers came up
12.
with that, fuck me.
Like you'll hear
Ow,
those
ow.
stories of like the one guy who made a game, but normally it's things like Stardew Valley, which I
Oh,
love,
sure.
but 16-bit graphics or whatever it is, it's obviously toned down a bit. But I don't know who did the particle effects and things of that nature, but someone is doing really well. They got places to go soon. And it is very
Yeah.
exciting. But anyway, we're getting a little bit off topic on this thing. It's fun to gush about some certain aspects of the game because so much of it was done to a level that was simply not expected for this media, which actually, just call me Dean Kamen, which is the name of the guy who invented the segue. If you,
Oh, yeah, I knew what you meant.
considering seeing the idea of Subverse and the continued release of it, do you have any thoughts on the medium as a whole, this blur between I say regular, but games and adult games? Do you think, yes, mainstream games versus adult games, and the fact that Subverse is kind of blending them, do you think that you'll see more of these types of things pop up due to its success?
I would be absolutely shocked if it wasn't. If for no other reason that we've seen, I mean, I hate to say this because I honestly would like to support the art for the art's sake, but if for no other reason that we see it's fucking profitable. Um, Fucking Subverse kickstarted for a record 2.3 million. And now in comparison to actual what that takes for building a video game, a full-ass video game, that's not a ton. So nobody get really super pissed of, we dumped a whole shit ton of money and we only got this. That for a video game budget is actually fairly small. However, considering that this is kind of this new thing, and that we'd never seen a game really be financially structured that way, it set a very unique and interesting precedent. I would be shocked if we did not see more like that. What it will require is animation studios to get a lot more serious about their animation end. It's not to say that we don't see some incredible animators who do smut. I, of course, am thinking of artists like Nil, who, of course, is immediately in my brain because I'm his fucking casting director. But Baron Strap, Scud, a lot of really incredible animators who just decided what they want to do with their career of their own volition is do adult material. But the general caliber of really, really, really high animation quality tends to kind of only belong to a select few animators right now. I am really, really excited / I think it's very, very likely that we're going to see more animation talent go into that direction now that we see that it is a viable career path. And I think that's so fucking cool. I think that is I'm hoping, but I also would be willing to place a bet that this is going to be a very new, interesting, and profitable direction for developers.
Interesting. So you think that some of the more freelance solo people might actually move towards working for a studio or company if once this, obviously money needs to be put behind it, of course, as with all things. But you think
Sure.
that might be more of the upcoming future is to have that kind of be more blended?
It becomes a question of one of the biggest thing that we see is we always know that the first form of any media, the most prolific use, I get this from, and I got my resource last time, from Ars Technica, or should I say Ars Technica, which is the adult parody of that particular.
God damn it.
Right? Pornography is the record-holding, most prolific number one place where every new technological medium, every new kind of media is used. It is the one to usually utilize it first and recordly holding the most expansive use of it. So it's not exactly new or shocking that we're going to use new amazing art forms to do porn. However, we do still live in a society, we do still live in the society that we live in. Various major companies like PayPal and such are very, very, unfortunately, beholden to credit card companies that say no smut, do not adult. And this is really unfortunate because I don't actually know PayPal's stance on this one, but I know, I mean, that is why PayPal and such and those and folks like that can't do this, because they're fucking beholden to credit card companies who don't want to see any adult stuff happen. The to get vaguely, mildly, for just a moment, political for a second, a lot of that is under the guise of preventing sexual trafficking. Now, of course, I am extremely opposed to any illegal forcing any woman to do anything she doesn't want to do, especially when she's being exploited. However, that is used way, 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 way too liberally to cover just straight up any kind of adult artistic content. People, voice actors like myself, animators, artists, illustrators, all of the thing. It's a very, very easy way of maintaining that sort of puritanical, we don't do porn business. And it sucks because it's profitable. The straight up reason is strictly moral. So I am hoping that this sort of sets a new and interesting precedent for that. It is going to have to be financial. The long-winded answer is yes, it's going to be financial, but we already have seen that finance. That hasn't really changed as much simply because we see porn being such a profitable industry. It's straight up, can we get these sociological values to evolve? And thusly, can we get the credit card companies to be more permissible to these sorts of things? And as Noam Chomsky likes to say, the further we go down in time and in progress, the more we tend to drift towards, shall we say, more expressive forms of existence. So I think it is inevitable. I am hopeful that it happens sooner than 200 years from now.
Oh, yes, please. Though it does give me a slight, maybe this is a little bit outlandish, but it reminds me a little bit Patriot Act style, where intentions might be good, but oh, does it overreach?
I mean, that's literally kind of the thing that I was referring to with not specifically Patriot. Same concept for sure.
Right.
Much like what the Patriot Act intended to do, Sesta Fosta was supposed to go after and prevent exploitation of illegal and exploitive relationships with women and their pimps and such. And what it really did was went after sex workers, anybody who does any kind of material, any kind of entertainment or art in the adult world, including, myself, including any illustrator or animator. Sesta Fosta really, really, really handcuffed us. And it wasn't even sneaky, it was the point. Much like Patriot Act, it was the point.
Gotcha. I actually don't think I've ever heard of that particular act. I'm not in that particular industry, but Sesta Fosta, is that how you said it was?
Yes, I will. I provide you some very interesting reading material afterwards, and I'm very, very, very happy to talk about this one in this interview. I imagine a bunch of folks who are already listening probably know what I'm talking about, but if you are not familiar, I will provide Bricky with some interesting policy. It was much like that one. It was slipped under the radar. It was written as protect women from being exploited, and it was maybe in actual essence 3% that, 97% stop sex work, stop any kind of adult entertainment from happening.
How how ironic that Subverse's main political plot involves a puritanical dictatorship. Who would have guessed?
Think they might have a video game having an interesting moral point to say? We've never seen any video games like that.
An adult game with an interesting moral point to say as well. Actually, on that moral point,
I often laugh at folks who say they don't want politics in their video game. I mean, that's all that we live and breathe and do.
Oh god, we had a conversation about BioShock a bit ago, like one of the most politically charged games of all time, and everyone's like, they don't want
politics in their story. Don't want politics in their story. BioShock is one of those amazing, beautiful. I love it. Top to bottom, it plays like a fantastic sci-fi novel reads, but it is explicitly a political story, and it's fascinating for it. It's very cool bits of speculative fiction. It is speculative political fiction, and it's a fantastic story for it, but it is explicitly political. And this
Extremely
isn't a
political.
bad thing. It tells a cool story. I'm gonna wax philosophical here for 2 seconds.
Okay, go ahead.
We as a human race exist to tell really interesting stories. And I love video games that tell me a rich and fascinating story, whether or not they give us a moral or not, whether they challenge our views or not. That's one of the things that they exist to do. And that's one of the reasons why I'm absolutely 100% in team video games are art camp, because they can very much do that. They can be casual, fun, whatever things that you do on a Tuesday afternoon to fill up some time in the DMV line, or you can sit and enjoy someone's artistic vision trying to tell you what it was like to survive through drug culture in the late 70s, or what it would be if this one political idea was taken to its incredible extreme, or what it was like to live in Rome in its heyday. And all of these people coming together to build this vision of story and art and sound and music, and it's like you get to live in a movie. And to say that that can't tell stories, that that can't give moral ideas, is, I think, missing the point.
I am hoping that every Fallout New Vegas fan appreciates that right now, because that is all New Vegas is. It is politics upon politics, and it is fascinating. You know, actually, I wanted to pop back a little bit because we were discussing what was the act's name again?
Who?
The act, not the Patriot Act, the other one.
Sesta Fosta.
Sesta Fosta.
That's obviously an acronym. It is SESTA/FOSTA.
Gotcha. And we were, I was mentioning earlier that I was talking to a lot of the other people who currently worked on the game, and it was intriguing because it's something I never expected. All of you, or damn close to all of you, cut your chops in original, normal, non-NSFW voice acting, and a lot of them have separate accounts entirely dedicated to that are much larger, but they have to, or they are forced to, create an entirely separate account because of fear of people not wanting to hire you if you do any kind of not suitable for work stuff, which feels...
I mean, not even so much fear as much as that's just the reality. There are a couple of really amazing studios, who I, of course, won't out, who will absolutely hire voice actors who have done adult stuff, but they're not in the majority. Blizzard would never touch you. Blizzard would never, ever, ever touch you.
It just feels so petty in a weird way.
Sucks. It super sucks. It is two ideas. One of them is way more garbage than the other. The second one we've already touched. The second one is strictly ideals of puritanical blah blah. But the first one is, if you moan into a mic, you can't act. Which is, of course, complete garbage ridiculous. That we completely prove by the reason that I brought that up in the first place in the first interview was that a lot of, at least a couple of, I can't name who, I will not name who, and even myself have successful careers outside of adult stuff with our own names, and we must, well, women must. Some dudes have gotten away with it a whole hell of a lot better than we ever would, which, yay, double standard.
Moving the needle.
I hate it so fucking much. It's created a very interesting result, but the shitty reality is that we still look at women. We still look down at the porn creation, specifically women who do it, because it's something that they can only do if they have no other recourse. And fuck, look at me. I'm a double degree holding, world traveling, erudite socialite, and I choose to do this because I honestly love it. It is, I get to compile my love for art with my love of erotica, and that is living the fucking dream. But we still have this idea that porn and acting is not something that can go hand in hand. And it's not as though we don't have a wealth of porn where there is no acting at all, and that's fine, doesn't need to be. But it doesn't mean that it can't be. And I only need point at some of my fellow voice actors in Subverse, or some of the other very, very well articulate, very excellent actors, such as, oh, I don't know. I was about to list other people. I was like Silky Milk, but she's also in fucking Subverse. Ule Tiger, there's another one. Fantastic actors who are perfectly capable of voicing stuff in the adult department. There is a range, much like any other artistic vocation, of people who suck to people who are fucking amazing. But the idea that you cannot act if you are just moaning into a mic is completely ridiculous. So silly.
That was actually something that now that I had the opportunity to learn a little bit more about the industry, one thing that absolutely blew my mind that I did not expect, and that was either due to ignorance or just simply having a misconception, was and I'm sorry if I pronounced this wrong, what's it called? Is it called Foley?
Yes, Foley work.
That, like, it's not just the simple act of actually doing the sounds and voiceover, but it's also like, okay, this scene has a bed hitting a wall. You got to make the noise for it. Or other kinds of more like physical stuff.
Sure. Foley work is old Hollywood material. That certainly does not belong solely to adult material whatsoever. There are professionals who works exclusively in Foley and SFX work. Any time where you have begun, I have no idea who originally started doing it, but as soon as blockbusters started becoming a thing, the sound effects that you need to create someone punching or someone shooting or someone being caressed in the face, you can't produce those simply by the mics being provided the actors. You have to add them in post. So this is an old movie making thing. There are Foley artists that exist entirely for that are just basically sound designers who go in their backyards and get really, really high-end equipment and hit things with other things to create sound effects that sound like things that are absolutely not the things that they're doing.
Crunkling leather or that kind of stuff, like all the big props.
Actually, crinkling leather sounds more like hay. To create leather sounds, usually I hear you have to break sticks.
That is so bizarre.
It's weird. I mean, one of the more famous pieces of Foley work, TIE Fighters. TIE Fighters are a lion roar with weird layers added to them.
That is interesting. Actually, the Reapers in Mass Effect,
yes.
We always thought they were a foghorn. Apparently, it is the slow opening of one of those rusty dumpsters that you'd find in a campsite.
And there you go.
But with the added bass. It's crazy. Yep. I mainly mentioned because I didn't realize that so much of that Foley work was actually done by the voice actors and actresses as opposed to a separate entity.
What's really awesome about this particular job is it gets our foothold, our experience in a whole lot of others. I don't want to do any discredit to my standard mainstream voice actor counterparts because acting is a full-ass job, but not safe for work voice actors often end up being Foley artists. We end up being sound designers. We end up doing a whole lot of editing as well as our own scripting. So we're kind of doing 7 jobs at once.
It's the octopus analogy. You've got 8 arms for different things, but so long as you keep your 3 hearts, all is good.
Oh, that's a good one.
I did not make that. That was from Marcus Brownlee, MKBHD. I don't know if you've seen his tech videos, but he says that doing YouTube, doing voice work, doing anything like that is you've got 8 different jobs, and it's going to be stressful as hell. But in a sense, compared to a movie set, you are your own mic person, you are your own actor or actress, you are your own cameraman, etc.
You are your own makeup artist. You are your own ad-lib script creator.
Yes, all that stuff at one time. Those are all the 8 different arms, and so long as you keep your hearts in the same place, you're gonna do pretty well. I like it. It sounds so good coming off the tongue.
Yeah, no, I'm keeping that one. That's good. And never minding if you want to go on top of that and above and beyond. I'm getting to use my classical musician training. I get to produce covers and play piano and even do some sound production, even do some music production, which is not something every single adult voice actor does, but some do, and at least a few do, and I do.
Actually, thank you for mentioning that, because I know we've been going for quite a while now, but I would be completely out of my mind if I did not get a chance for you to tell a little bit more about your backstory in voice acting, and specifically all the wine stuff, because that shit was fascinating the first time I heard it, and I think other people should hear it too.
I'm happy to regale you, but those are two different things.
Well, yes, but the two aspects of the life that are very interesting.
For sure. So the wine stuff is fairly easy and straightforward. My my moniker, BordeauxBlack, my nom de plume, comes from my particular choice. I mean, not that I'll not drink anything if it's the appropriate pairing, but one of my standard go-tos tends to be a Left Bank Cabernet Sauvignon, which is the Bordeaux from the Bordeaux region. So I just basically picked my favorite wine.
That's so on brand, if we're being totally honest.
I mean, one of the things that I thought of that I knew that I would eventually get to is my personal 3 rules of sommeliership, and it came to mind because one of them is, uh, never drink bad wine. There's a big difference between bad wine and cheap wine. There are plenty of inexpensive wines, um, but never, never, never spend any time on wine that is not good quality, because you're wasting your time.
Yeah, well, if it's not good, then there's no point. Drinking wine just to get drunk sounds ridiculous. There are much faster and easier ways to get yourself plastered.
For sure. And I'm trying to remember why I linked those two in my brain, but I can't remember why. Just going off on sommelier things. Life is too short for bad product. That is rule number 1. Rule number 2 is don't buy your wine based on label. For the love of God, you are buying marketing. I'm looking at all the folks who buy Apothic. I'm sorry, your crap is product from like shit swill from Modesto. Like, no.
It does have really good label though. Those
It's a very pretty
absolute
label.
bastards.
That doesn't have anything to do with the product whatsoever. Some of the most famed chateaus have these really, really, really just boring plain labels because, for the most part, their selling point, old world wines as opposed to newer world wines, their selling point is where the wine is coming from. That's what we'll see primarily on the label. Like right front and center, it will be from this region, and then under small text, we'll see Chateau blah, blah, blah. And they're just very boring. And they make up some of the most high-profile wine that exists. Somewhere along the line, America learned that people buy things based on pretty. And that's just strictly marketing.
That they do. America is the king of that.
And as much as I am happy I'm happy that artists are getting jobs. I am happy for that. As a sommelier, it's one of those big things that we kind of sort of hate, that people are buying based on not the quality of the product, not the love or the labor of the house that is making it, not how good the wine is itself, but just, on pure superficial aesthetics. And it breaks our hearts every time.
Well, it's good because I did get the what was it called, Apothic. I only bought it once, and I wasn't buying it again.
Yeah.
So at least my tastes are working properly.
It's the wine equivalent of Dr. Pepper. You would be better served by buying Dr. Pepper.
Are you talking down on Dr. Pepper?
No.
Oh, thank goodness. Okay, we're about to fight.
If you're going to buy Apothic, you might as well be buying soda. And if you're going to buy soda, just fucking buy soda.
Perfect. Okay, because I was ready to throw hands if talking shit on Dr. Pepper.
Oh no, man. Oh no. I fucking love Dr. Pepper.
Excellent.
But just as what it is a successful marketing campaign. It is, we're going to buy up a bunch of cheap land, and are sort of run off and blend. It's not even quality blending. It's not even intentional meritage. It's just, we're going to throw all of the dregs together and call it a product. So it is a resale of a afterthought of an afterthought. It is, and that's all it is. It doesn't, as far as the actual product itself goes, it's somewhat sweet and has zero complexity because it's literally just a little bit of Syrah, a little bit of Cab, a little bit of Merlot, and not even the quality stuff. It is the 15% leftover. It is a way of winemakers or should I say budget winemakers recuperating losses. That is what it is. So we hate it. We very much shame them because we want to see that money go to people who care about their product, people who aren't just buying land to make a buck. Not that I am shaming money making whatsoever. I want to see wine houses make money. It's there's a big difference between I am buying some land because I think it's great and it's going to make wonderful product, and I am a big company who wants to make $1 and doesn't give a shit about wine. Big difference.
Well, it sticks around with my original discussion in the Subverse video when I was talking about, hey, side hustles, not getting trapped in the current loop of financial issues nowadays. If you give a shit about your product, it's going to be 5 times better, and having that as your main group is so much more fun. You can work 80 hours a week doing what you really like, goes by the same as 40 hours doing what you hate.
Finger snaps. The poetic finger snaps. You're here to that.
Poetic finger snaps.
My polite applause.
Well, but considering that we've gone for just about an hour, give or take.
Oh, wait, I didn't get to the second half of your question.
Oh, you didn't? Crap. Let's do that. Let's do it quickly because I got one more question after that.
That was supposed to be the short one. The
That's
Sommelier
right.
was supposed to be just, it's the naming of my name and it's something that I'm passionate about.
Yes, let's do that.
The longer one.
We got one more question after that.
Okay. I'll try to make it not too long then. The other half of your question was how I used my performance background and got into VA in the first place, right?
Yes, yeah, because I remember you have quite a long history of VA work.
I love talking about this, not just because it's fun, but because it's a very sort of interesting background. I spent very, very baby BordeauxBlack, age 6, first role, a cross-dressing pirate king in Pirates of Penzance. And if that doesn't tell you anything about who I would become, then nothing will. And I went from there. It was piano lessons and professional dance. And then later on, I got into opera at the age-appropriate amount of time. You cannot get into opera at an early age, otherwise you will permanently damage your voice. Don't let anybody who...
Is that actually true? I did not know that.
Oh, absolutely true. The really, really skilled impersonators the really young kids who are reproducing that sound are permanently damaging their voices, and any classically trained person will be sitting there going, oh no, oh God, claws on the chalkboard, oh, they're hurting themselves permanently. They'll never be able to produce that sound once their voices develop.
Oh my God, I had no idea.
It's awful and heartbreaking. A good classical voice training progresses you in that direction eventually. It's literally training an instrument, but that instrument happens to be permanently attached to you. So generally speaking, the correct way of doing it is go after choral pieces, go after art pieces. Then you started to get into the arias as your voice starts to develop and be able to handle that sort of volume. Because, literally this art form was developed before mics even existed. It was to sing over an orchestra and, a half-mile back. So it takes skill and technical training to be able to do without destroying yourself.
That is fascinating. I had no idea. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. We're little cultural education hour.
Yes, please.
But there was that. There was my love of doing torch tunes and sultry jazz, which of course goes along with this very well. And that led off into a side performance focus in burlesque, which I get to sort of drop any of my performance skills into. I ended up doing a whole lot of macabre stuff, or horrorlesque as it's called. Because that's just my personal interest. Bathing in blood and coming out half naked, that sort of thing.
Oh no! I'm expecting all that in the next. Crap. Roger Ebert, the guy did the Vavitch movie. That guy. It's very exactly how it seems.
You'll see me tossing my hair back and then opening my mouth with a mouthful of teeth.
Okay.
Very serrated things.
That kind of stuff.
But no, The burlesque was very much a much later thing because I'd already spent it was much like voice acting, it was something that I could bring all of my skills to, and at that point, I'd already dabbled in music production. I'd been, playing piano and singing and dabbling a little bit in guitar and violin, but honestly more, focusing on the piano since I was 6, and a lot of these skills kind of came together in the burlesque stuff, and that was always niche. What was awesome about voice acting was I got to take that plus all of my business acumen that I developed over the years, um, brand, advertisement, blah blah. Some of the stuff I'm very much new to, but the networking, all of those skills, I got to pile them together, and I get to now use all of the things that I was very, very passionate about, but knew would probably never be a viable career option. And not only is it a viable career option now, but I get to do all of them. I don't just have to be limited by being a singer or being an actor or being a sound producer or being a music producer. I get to do as much as I want to be able to do. And that is so fucking amazing to me. It's living the dream for sure. But to conclude the rest of that question, it's not only getting to use my acting, my singing, my sound design, my Foley work, my music direction, my musician capabilities, I also get to use all of my language skills. I dubbed a game that I can't talk about just yet since I'm under NDA, but I dubbed a game completely in Italian. I also have some conversational French and Japanese. I get to use those skills and all of my accent training. Oh, that one's that one's cheating. Um, but all of my other accent training and the like. Um, I get to use all of those skills in one, and that makes it a dream career.
Fantastic. It's a lot more going into it. Well, anyone with a brain realizes that the ability to not only do regular and not suitable for work voice acting requires more than just quote unquote
Going
moaning
into
into a mic.
Yeah.
But it's also interesting to see not only that, but the depth that it can head into, to the point where it's like, oh yeah, it's not just more into the mic, but it's also like, oh yeah, if you're gonna be playing not only in say regular voice acting content, but even in like smut pornography, sometimes you have to put on an accent. You want to do a good Widowmaker, you better be French.
Oh, I would not say that. One of my more title impersonations is Amélie. And that would be Chloe Hollings, who is more famously known as Widowmaker.
See, you got it. Yeah, perfect. I nailed it.
Thank you.
Excellent.
I mean, it's that one definitely comes down to, even though I am not French, I suppose I shouldn't say what I am or am not. That's fine. You can leave that in. I am not from France, but I did study the language, and I did spend 6 years in IPA training. That's a International Phonetic Alphabet, not the beer.
Dang it! I hoped it was the beer, because it's like, wine, beer, perfect.
You can drink beer and study languages. That's awesome.
That's the equivalent of moaning to the mic, but for that particular business.
Now, spent 6 years studying IPA and diction classes, which means I learned how to sound like I speak the language, even if I do not. The other amazing thing that it has allowed me to do, and I think it actually will probably segue nicely into what I think your last question is going to be, and that's why it was relevant, that's why my brain wanted to remember it. One of the other things that it's allowed me to do is do a lot of script writing.
It was the question. There
Yeah,
you
it was
go.
going to be what are your next projects?
What's your goals as an artist? What's next?
So one of the things that I want to do, and that I've certainly occasionally mentioned to DC before, and I'm mentioning it again because I should just honestly drop him some of my fucking script work, but I would absolutely love to write for Studio FOW, if only to have that amazing platform to get some of more my idea of erotica out there. But honestly, one of the things that I find really amazing about some of the not safe for work community on the whole is we're not always necessarily as interested in making our models off of what is the most popular, which is to say there's nothing wrong with going after something to make money. I'm certainly not opposed to making money. But one of the other sides of my background that brought me to this in the first place was very much a love of all things passion and all things adult, and of course all things very, very, very kinky. And I get to bring that side of my personality as well into my career world, which is super, super amazing and very much also the dream. But being that that is what it is, I've in my real world life, I have a couple of published pieces, which unfortunately I cannot share because they are under my real life name. But I have been able to do some other script writing bits and pieces here and there. I have a project that I'm very excited about called The Last Fix, which is a cyberpunk romance that is very, very much ends in naughty bits, but the point isn't to get to the porn as fast as possible. The point is to tell a full and complete story that happens to have extra layers added to it by having smut content. And the more we see, I have seen some incredible male authors do fantastic things with smut, but I gotta say, there are a lot of really, really amazing female writers out there who don't get their stuff out as much. And I would absolutely fucking love to see more of my script work out there, to see more women who like smut, women who actively want porn, who enjoy porn, have something that is more for more people. Not that
Gotcha.
there's anything wrong with smut for dudes, not at all. I want to see plenty of that as well. I just want to see everything available. I want to see porn that is for lots of different types of folks.
Well, it definitely does. You can kind of tell often when if you see some kind of any kind of pornography, what the demographic it tends to
Right.
be aimed for,
Oh, for sure.
and
Never
more
forget that
variety
even though
is
this
like,
is adult expression, it is still a moneymaker. So people are still going after target demos.
of course, but the a want for more variety, you'd have to be a madman to say no, please, no, how dare you?
Right. And that's one of the cool things that people that the not safe for work community gets to explore because they're more interested in showing off their particular kinks and fetishes and writing about what they like. And they'll get these little niche fandoms who are people who also like these sorts of things. But as someone who is very, very kinky and very much a writer and who kind of likes to keep a finger on the social change and stuff and such in the world, I think I have a vision that I would love to be able to share that I think people would dig. So I'm very excited to put out some of my more scripting, my personally scripted projects. There's not a ton of my own out there just yet, but I dropped Last Fix because that's the one that I'm most interested in doing right now. So that's the one that I'm going on to. I'm definitely going to post this to DC, say, hey, hire me to be your writer. I would love to do it. Here's some samples.
And most importantly, if they wanted to, I gotta segue this the best way because we're going to be rolling this up soon. If they wanted to find that kind of stuff, if they wanted to get updates on said stuff, where would they be going?
The best place to keep up with me is on my Twitter, which is BordeauxBlack VA. My top pinned tweet has links to all of the rest of my stuff where you can find my SoundCloud and my Patreon and my merch. And all of that, all of my relevant various pieces. But the best way to keep up with all of the stuff that I'm updating is on said Twitter.
Fantastic. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap it all up? That was a very solid answer. I think I remember you talking about the cyberpunk thing last time, and that seemed exciting.
The only thing that I could think of that I need to add is a very, very appreciative shout outs to a couple of individuals. To Steve, who you already know what for. To Clippy, who has been a very, very dear and good friend who supports the arts of all stripes and is an incredible actor herself. And to Gamertron, who originally gave some of the Subverse actors a platform right off. He was very, very invested and interested from day one. He might not be, as big as you or Desi
hush.
or the like. But he certainly jumped on board very, very quickly and has been one of the most kind, wholesome, and non-YouTube personalities that I've ever met. So I wanted to definitely give him and Half Pint some love, but definitely gave a whole lot to Gamertron. But yeah, those little loving shout outs.
I will make sure to put a link in. I'm not sure. I'm sure you could send me Clippy's Twitter or whatever, but Steve, Gamertron, Half Pint, and Clippy in the description as well, just to get them the love that they deserve as well, because it's very important to do that. Because of course,
Gamertron was the first individual to give me my very, very first interview 2 years ago, right when Subverse was getting going. So there'll be some interesting little trivia bits in there as well.
Exciting. We could just see a little bit of the progression too. Yeah. Hell yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I'm glad I think we had a pretty good one, you know, compared to the first one, a little more casual, I think.
I like this one better than the first one. We got to cover more ground and we were more ready for what we were going to do.
Absolutely. And now that the video has already been out, a little bit more time has come for it all settle and understand. So it was fantastic. Sure. Thank you so much. And I look forward to it, as I'm sure most of the listeners will also, looking forward to the next parts of the game.
Please keep the response, good critique, fan mail, fan art. Please keep it coming. I love it to pieces.